fans, welcome back to M237, back with another review. Now, this may seem kind of random, actually, these next few videos may seem kind of random, but I did just find out that a upcoming reboot to some films, which I had heard about, haven't seen the trailer yet, but I had heard of it, was actually going to be playing here in my hometown later this month, so I figured, what the hell, I guess I'll go see it. Originally, I wasn't going to make any attempt to see it unless it was put in front of me. But since it's playing here, I guess I'll go see it. I think it's one night only. But then I realized I haven't talked about any of the films in the series that this is going to be a reboot to. And so I figured, why not? I guess it's a good time. But before I continue, I do just want to do the same disclaimer that I do for any film with a director with this kind of controversy behind it. Yes, I'm fully aware of the director of this film and actually his two sequels, the crimes he committed, fully aware of all that. These videos are just about the films. Yes, I think we can all agree that what he did was horrible. Whether he should be allowed to continue is a whole other separate story for another video. So if you could, and I know this is the internet, people do the opposite of what you ask, but if possible, just keep the comments about the movie itself. Yes, the guy did something terrible. We all agree on that. But that is the Jeepers Creepers films by director Victor Salva. Yeah, originally I was going to make no effort to see Reborn, but then I saw that it was coming here, so I thought, what the hell? And I haven't done any of them yet. So this is the first one from 2001, Jeepers Creepers. And the only other one I have is the first sequel. I don't own 3, but I have seen it. I'll probably end up picking it up. But I've always been a fan of these two films. I think originally this one was my favorite. But then the more I watched them, the more this one stood out as not just the better of the two or the best of the 3, but really one of the better and effectively scarier horror films to come out since 2000. Is definitely one of my favorite horror films from between 2000 2009. Probably one of my favorite horror films since 2000. And every time I watch it, there's just more that I find that makes it more effective. And I've always liked this film. I remember when it first came out, I think I was in probably 4th grade, 3rd or 4th grade, and I remember kids talking about it like it was the scariest movie that they've ever seen. And I actually didn't see it till after this one. I think I saw this one first. But yeah, written and directed by Victor Salva. Again, this is just about the films themselves. Which, actually, when I first saw Jeepers Creepers, I didn't even know about his crimes till years later. Which is why, I liked these first. And if I like a film and then I figure something controversial about the people behind it, it doesn't change the quality of the film for me. Which is why I think it's kind of pointless to talk about it. But written and directed by Victor Salva, it was actually put out by Francis Ford Coppola's American Zoetrope company. Stars Gina Phillips, Justin Long, and Jonathan Breck as the Creeper. And this might be one of the earlier roles by Justin Long. I know this was the first movie I saw him in. Of course, he went on to be known as the comedy guy. But he still did a decent job with this. And I would be confident in saying that the Creeper is an effective modern horror icon. I mean, if we're looking at sort of horror icons from 2000 to present, along with Jigsaw or Annabelle, the newer Pennywise, I would definitely put the Creeper in that list. And definitely the name suits him. I've always thought he was creepier. I always thought he was scarier than most newer icons. And a lot of that does go to Jonathan Breck's portrayal. Bennett Salve did the music, and it's a very Harry Manfredini kind of orchestration. It's very over the top, kind of loud. Think of like Harry Manfredini, Friday the 13th type scores, but just make that louder and more over the top. That's what it's always reminded me of. Uh, Supposedly, people thought that this was loosely inspired by a Dennis Depew, who was caught by a brother and sister dumping his dead wife's body down a pipe in 1990. There was a TV special on it in 91. But Salva has gone on to say yes or no as to whether this was inspired by that. Instead, saying it's more like Night of the Living Dead meets Duel. But really, this is a classic monster movie. I know Salva and the Creepers concept designer Brad Parker, fans of classic monster movies, and we hadn't had one for a while at that point, so that's what they set out to make. Especially Brad Parker being from Nebraska and just sort of growing up, just finding a very eerie creepiness to just as far as the eye can see, cornfields and scarecrows, which the second film plays on that a bit more, but I see where they're coming from with this as well. There is a scarecrow scene in this. And what really makes it work is, one, the absolute simplicity of the story. Justin Long and Gina Phillips playing brother and sister, Derry and Trish, which their chemistry on camera is absolutely uncanny. You really buy them as brother and sister. Their banter, their chemistry, how they give each other shit, but they care for each other. It works. Also, the pacing and just the slow reveal of the film, which also, one thing I didn't really pick up on until now, or at least I didn't think about it till now, that almost every other horror movie does, and this just drops you right in, is that it doesn't have an isolated opening kill. It doesn't show a random character doing whatever, getting picked up or killed by the creeper, and then take us to the beginning of the main story. This just drops us right in to Trish and Derry's road trip. And within like 5 minutes, we get the creeper, or at least his truck. So I really like that. I feel like that might have taken me out of it, where it just drops you right into the story. I really liked that. How most of the creeper, when he's shown, it's like in the background and out of focus, which that really works. But also the slow reveal of what it looks like. I mean, we go from him just looking like what could just be an old serial killer, just shrouded in black trench coat, hat. But then the more we see of him, it's maybe this guy's more than human. Maybe he is a bit supernatural. And then we see his face, and then we see he has wings, and then we get the whole thing at the end. So it is a very slow, a methodical reveal as to what he looks like, which works. It works wonders for the effectiveness of this film. And also just the little bits that they give us at first. I mean, I always thought the first two scenes with the creeper are some of the scariest in the whole film. I mean, we get that shot, Trish and Derry in the front seats of the car, camera looking at them, and way in the background, out of focus, we see the RV behind them, and it just kind of goes off the road, crashes. Then we just see the creeper's truck come up right on their ass. The fact that it's out of focus and way in the background and they don't notice it, it really gives this sense of being watched, or this impending danger. My favorite shot of the whole film is when they initially drive by the church, and again, way off in the distance, you can barely make out, you can just make out his figure, can't see his face or anything, as he's just dumping bodies down this pipe, and then he just catches, dumps it, and then he just like watches. It's this wonderful wide shot as we just drive by, just like catching some creepy looking person in the act of something creepy, and then watching you watch them, even though it's way off in the distance. It's quite unnerving. And then just that truck with that terrifying, unnerving horn. Just there's a lot to enjoy about this film. And then, how they go back to the pipe, and we see sort of his lair with the bodies everywhere. Which, yes, I will say, the effects on the dead bodies do look kind of plasticky, but I think we're supposed to believe that they've been preserved somehow. So I kind of let that slide. However, at one point when we see the creeper with no clothes, just sort of as is, you can see the zipper on the back of the suit, which does kind of give it charm. It does kind of make it feel more like these old 40s, 50s monster B movies, like a guy in a suit. So I still thought that worked. But really, the methodical pace of it really helps. A lot of the scenes happening in the background, which I think the first scene we get that really shows this might be someone supernatural will be, again, with them in the front seats driving, camera looking that way, cop car behind him. We just see him again out of focus, just like land on the roof and then just like rise. I love that shot. And then the music does a lot to help it too, because when it's not doing that loud Harry Manfredini type score, like after he kills the two cops in the car, he does that creepy just walk as he whistles the Jeepers Creepers song. I love that shot where he's standing in front of the billboard. He's holding the head. The lights on the billboard creates a silhouette, so you still can't quite see what it looks like. He's sniffing the head. Then when he turns it around, like he goes in, we don't quite know what he's doing yet. And the music just has this ominous, like, as it builds, as it shows him like biting the tongue out. Perfectly effective. The music is creepy when it needs to be, over the top when it needs to be. And again, I love just that slow reveal that this is more than just a human serial killer. And each time they have a run-in with him, it just gets more and more bigger. Like, more of the creeper is revealed. Like, because then we get to see with the cat lady, where that's when we actually see his face for the first time. I will say, I probably like the look of the creeper more in the sequel, but I still really do like the look of him in this one, and I do like this movie miles more than the second film. I will say, just the look of the creeper itself might be better done in part 2. And yeah, the CGI on the wings are a bit dated, but that didn't really bother me. But to give Victor Salva more credit, the guy really does know how to frame a shot. Because we get other shots once they finally get to the sheriff's station, which I know Salva also has like a little group of people that he always works with. Like the sheriff has been in a number of his films. The guy they bring in at the beginning of the scene, he's actually a coach in part 2. The sheriff would be in part 3. I think he was in Powder. Yeah, he was in Powder, which I didn't even know was a Salva film until years later. And actually, Jonathan Breck plays an officer out of creeper makeup, so that was kind of cool. But like, all the cops are ready. They know something's up. Guy goes up, gets grabbed, and then there's this huge hole in his torso, and the camera's behind him, you know, looking at his back. And there's all the cops shining their lights at him. There's a light coming right through the hole in his torso. Some very well framed shots uh, throughout. I also like the scene where Trish and Derry are kind of fighting in this one, uh, not a holding cell. I think they make it to like an interrogation room. And the creeper's in the next room looking at this two-way mirror, like sniffing the glass. The word I'm going to keep using is creepy, but I always found this movie to be unnerving. I mean, just how the creeper looks, things he does, the way the music is handled, the way the shots are framed, and just that, again, that slow reveal. Because just when you think you've seen it all, creeper comes in, uh, grabs both of them, but chooses Derry. And then that's when all the cops come in with their gear, shine their lights. Not only do you see his face, but you see like final form where those webbings open up and he lets out that banshee scream. Salva did say that he put some hints throughout, like the first act, to kind of give hints that Trish is going to be the one that's taken. Uh, but of course she doesn't. And I guess he was advised against numerous people that he can't give the movie a happy ending, or that he needs to give it a happy ending. Of course he doesn't. It literally ends with nothing happening to the creeper, except he finds a new lair in this factory. And the psychic, which I'll talk about the psychic, her premonition comes to life with screaming down in the dark with the old Jeepers Creepers song playing, which I like how we don't see what he does to Justin Long. It does add sort of that Jaws effect of what you don't see is scarier. The camera just goes through this old rundown factory. We just hear the echo of Justin Long's screams coming through until eventually we see the creeper in his workshop, which that actually was Justin Long at the very end with this shot. Yeah, the psychic... there seems to be a psychic in each one of these movies. I will say it's more random in part 2. I could kind of get behind and forgive the psychic aspect in this one. But she does seem to just be an expository character. Like, just there to be the one to tell us, oh, every 23rd spring for 23 days it gets to eat. It eats this so he could do that. Eats this so he could do that. That's really all she's there for. And I guess without her, how would we know all that? Not saying we really need to know, which I guess at the time, maybe they weren't planning to do a sequel. But, you know, maybe they could have explored that a bit more in this. But to me, it would have made more sense to have this whole mystery throughout the film with that gradual reveal, to just not know exactly how he works or what he wants. We kind of could have put it together, because I mean, she runs over him like 3 or 4 times, and then he breaks into the sheriff's station, and when we see him eating the prisoner, we see his leg is gone, and that he's fully repaired. We probably could have figured out that he can regenerate upon consumption. So yeah, the sidekick did just feel a bit more of an expository character. But I will say it was handled better than in the sequel. The sequel was just left field out of nowhere. But yeah, I've always enjoyed this film. It's always been one of my absolute favorite horror films, especially of, 2000 to 2009. If we're talking since 2000 altogether, the last 22 years, would this be a top 10? Probably not. But it's always been one of the most effective ones because, again, I love how it has... It is mostly how it's shot. Again, all those scenes where he's way in the background, out of focus, doing something, it gives that sense of being watched or impending danger. That's very effective. But especially when it's out of focus, like you know it's going on somewhere else. But I always loved the look of the creeper. I have always liked him more when he has his clothes and his hat, but it is still cool to see him in his natural form, which we definitely do get in part two. They pull out all the stops in two because the mystery is revealed in this one. But yeah, it's a great road horror film. The relationship between brother and sister is uh, feels real, feels relatable. You care about these two, and they do. The two actors do wonderfully together. Probably one of the best brother sister portrayals I've seen in a movie. I mean, you definitely buy them as siblings. Also, I just love the setting with just rolling feet, like fields, almost like Chainsaw Massacre, where it's just like a land that time forgot. And there's not too much I can say as like a flaw for this, but this is one of those rare occurrences of the early 2000s where not just a cool creature or an interesting or simple story, but also how it's shot and how the story develops. That makes it one of the more standout films of that time period. I've always enjoyed Jeepers Creepers. I know there was supposed to be a third act with Derry stealing the Creeper's truck, driving into a train, kills him but not the Creeper. And of course, I mean, this was made for an ultra small budget, so they couldn't do that. In fact, I think during most of the uh, third act, most, if not all, of Justin Long and Gina Phillips' dialogue and scenes were improvised. So that just goes to show that's just a testament to the chemistry that those two had. Okay, so it was made for 10 million, but I think they were over budget by like 1 million or something, which is why they couldn't do that final. Yeah, yeah, whatever. But yeah, Creeper is definitely one of my favorite horror icons to come out of the 2000s. And I, again, the sidekick is kind of but everything else, I love that barren wasteland type setting, the very simple story, that being chased by someone that's also toying with them, and just that gradual, methodical reveal from creepy serial killer to whatever supernatural monster this thing ends up being. So yeah, always always love Jeepers Creepers. So next review will be 2. I will pick up 3 at some point. I'm in no rush to get it. And yes, since Reborn is playing here, I will go see it on the 19th. No, I'm not going to watch a trailer or do a reaction. I'm just going to go to it completely blind, see what happens. But so yeah, stay tuned for those, and thank you for watching.